Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
Yes. I'll prefer confirmation, affirmation.
Affirmation.
Yes, make sure it's an affirmation if the witness wants an affirmation.
Please state your full names for the record.
My name is Daniel Kagiso Patlani.
Do you have any objection with making the prescribed affirmation?
No.
Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence will give shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, I truly affirm.
I truly affirm.
Thank you. Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Patlani's statement and relevant annexes to it and other documents are contained in what we propose be marked Exhibit MM4, if we could have that entered into the record.
Mr. Daniel Kagiso Patlani's statement and annexes thereto will be admitted and marked Exhibit MM4, and the lever arch file in which they are contained will be marked accordingly as well.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Patlani, in front of you, you have that exhibit in a file. I don't actually envisage, barring on one occasion, moving to other files, so you can keep that in front of you, and I'll make reference to it throughout, and you'll look at the top right-hand corner for the page numbers that I refer to in the course of the evidence. If I could take you then to page 1 of that file. You'll see, I think you're at an index page, if you just go over and look for page 1 at the top. Can you tell us what that document is?
It's my statement.
Thank you. And was that provided to the Commission?
Yes, I did.
And could you go over to page 7 of the same Exhibit MM4? Can you confirm whether that is your signature on the page?
Yes, it's my signature.
Thank you. Mr. Patlani, I'm next going to ask whether you confirm the contents of the statement as being true and correct. But before I do that, you did alert me this morning to the fact that there is a particular correction you'd like to make in respect of paragraph 6. But it is a correction that requires quite an explanation. So my suggestion, Mr. Patlani, is when you confirm the correctness, we note that you are going to make a change to paragraph 6, and when we get to that in the evidence, you will give your account of where the change occurs. Okay. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you. So if you will just indicate whether you confirm the contents but for paragraph 6, which we'll deal with in due course.
I do, Chairperson, I do confirm the statement is true with the changes that I'll make on paragraph 6.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patlani, let's start, if we may, with some background. Can you please tell the Commission when you first joined Transnet and in what position, and then take us through your progression in the organization?
Chairperson, I joined Transnet in 2011, August 16. From Department of Education. I was given the position of Senior Coordinator, Stakeholder Relations. I've been in that position for long until 2018. That's when I got promoted to be a Senior Manager, Stakeholder Relations. And I'm currently still on that position.
And who did you report to in that period 2011 till 2017?
I reported to the General Manager, Mboniso Skonyela.
When the witness who preceded you gave evidence, maybe I've been mistaken, but I thought Mr. Skonyela's first name was Mbonisi.
Mboniso.
It is Mboniso.
Yes, Chairperson.
So if I saw Mbonisi, either I saw something that wasn't there, or or somebody might have thought it is Mbonisi.
I think
The
it
correct
might-
one is Boniso.
It might be
An error.
wrongly written. It's Mboniso.
Yes, okay. I don't know if anybody had picked anything like that, that there was an I at the end.
Chair, we'll certainly check it. If I just go through the bundle in front of me, certainly whenever he is signing off on the
Yes.
various memoranda, it is Mboniso.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it may be that it was an email from somebody
It
else.
could have been, yes.
Yes,
indeed.
and not from him. Okay.
We'll just have a look for it so we can locate it.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Right, so Mr. Patlani, you were explaining between 2011 and 2017 you reported to Mrs. Sikonyela, is that right?
Yes, Chairperson. And then in 2017 to current, I'm reporting under General Manager Mr. Dikhete, Molatwani Dikhete.
Yes, that's Likhethe.
Yes, L.I.
Likhethe, Li.
Yes, Chairperson.
Mulatwane,
Molatwani.
Molatwane. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And can you explain to the Commission and the Chair what your role was holding that position in stakeholder relations?
Well, as Chairperson, as a coordinator, my responsibility was to assist the GM in terms of making sure that we build relations. We help Transnet to build its stakeholder relations and also to drive thought leadership by engaging and informing our critical stakeholders. So ideally we'll come up with platforms where we think we need to be able to invite certain stakeholders so that we can either be able to inform them or persuade them or just give them information about Transnet, just so that we're building that relationship with them. And well, there were other responsibilities such as the language unit, which came later, and also assisting in other activities within the department.
And did sponsorships and donations fall within your area of responsibility?
Yes, Chairperson, part of it was making sure that I process the sponsorships on behalf of the GCE, because that mandate was not directly within the GM. It was a mandate that was at the level of a GCE.
And is GCE, can you explain to us what that stands for?
GCE will refer to Group Chief Executive to say the budget regarding sponsorship. They were sitting with the GCE's office.
Thank you. And what would the ordinary process be for approval of sponsorships?
Chairperson, ordinarily what will happen is that a party with an interest will send a proposal to Transnet to say we will wish Transnet to sponsor a course that a course that they are interested in, and we will look at it whether is it in line with the draft sponsorship and donation policy to say, is this cost part of what we can support? And then we will then do what we call due diligence, request to check if it's legit, do they have a bank account and all that, and they will send those documents so that you see that here you are dealing with a company that is existing and that is legit, and what they want, it makes sense, and it will help Transnet, because if it's a sponsorship, it's different from if it's a donation. If it's a donation, we will put that money, there's not much attachment, is that we believe in whatever objective you want to do, you can go ahead, here's our support. But if it's a sponsorship, we'll want benefits. What is it that is in for Transnet? And then we'll assess if these benefits are in line with what we want, and what is it that we want to achieve with that particular sponsorship. So after that, a memo then will be generated to the GM, who was the one who will approve, depending on the amount. If it's within his DOA, it will be approved there, and then we'll execute and see to it that whatever that has been promised in the proposal or in the memo, we get as Transnet. But if it's beyond his DOA, he will push that it goes to the next person who has a DOA. More often because the budget of the sponsorship...
DOA being delegation of authority.
Oh, sorry, Chairperson. Yes, Chairperson, it refers to delegation of authority. Sorry.
Okay, all right, yes, continue.
Yes. Then it gets approved. Once it's approved, we'll prepare a contract now so that the party that has requested this sponsorship will then sign off to say, this is what we are going to give Transnet, and this is what Transnet is going to do. Then the processes of payment will follow.
Thank you, Mr. Patlani. I'd like to take you to the relevant delegations of authority that operated over the period of time that we're interested in Transnet, because there's an important respect in which the delegation of authority changed at a point in time, and I'm going to link that back to the evidence as we go through it. So if we can just start with the 2011 delegation of authority, and you'll find that in your bundle exhibit MM4 at page 113.
Maybe while we're doing that, I wanted earlier on to ask you to give me a few of Transnet stakeholders that you are talking about when you talk about sponsorships at that time when you joined.
When I joined, already Transnet was sponsoring National Arts Festival. We will go during that festival and brand. There's an area called, it's a stadium like, where you'll have the activities happening there. We own the naming rights there. It was called a Transnet village, a Transnet Green Village. So we will brand around there. We had a kiosk where we'll give people whatever the branded materials that we have, whether it's bags, whether it's whatever, so that as they buy around there, these small items, they'll be moving around with the Transnet branded. So you kind of put your company's brand out there so that people can remember that while the Standard Bank also being a sponsor on the side, but we were also on the side so that we are kind of competing for the same space, because the same environment, they've got more places that they're sponsoring, but we've got only the village, which we need to make sure that people do not remember Standard Bank, but remember Transnet. So it's one of those. Then we'll invite our stakeholders. We'll decide to say, since we've got a presence there, this year, who can we take around there to go and see the activation of a brand in a particular, or when you are supporting a particular cause? So we will take either our board members to say, okay, this year, let's take about 5 or 6 of our board members, that they be there and feel the experience. Or we could take customers and identify which customers do we think they need to be there and see the experience or experience Transnet being there and the brand being out there. So it depended on the kind of the activity or cause that we're supporting. You'll have NetBank. NetBank will take our customers there, the NetBank Golf Challenge. We will take our customers there so that there's this interaction between certain senior managers or certain managers of Transnet with certain customers so that they can discuss critical issues that needs to be, where they need to align or where they need to unlock challenges. So it will work kind of like that.
Well, I can understand completely in the case of Standard Bank or NetBank and so on, them getting involved like that to promote themselves because they may be wanting that the people who come to that event, they think about Standard Bank and NetBank, and maybe they could open an account with them and so on. I'm not sure that I can understand why Transnet would do anything like that for any purpose other than if it's a donation helping somebody's cause that is considered to be a worthy cause. But I'm not sure that I understand all of that, and I may be missing something, and I would like you to assist me.
Chairperson, one responsibility of communication is to build a brand, I think, which was not necessarily directly linked to what I'm doing, but they kind of interlink. You're building the brand. You want people to associate with the brand. While you are doing that branding exercise, there are other benefits that comes with that sponsorship, which such as you get a platform. Let me give an example of Nedbank.
Nedbank, I will understand.
You'll understand.
Yeah, it's Transnet and
Yes.
and Eskom that I think I'm struggling about.
Let me say
But let's talk about Transnet, because that's where you come from.
Yeah, I just want to clarify the linkage.
Oh, okay.
The linkage
all right.
with a
Start
particular brand.
Start with Nedbank or Standard Bank, and
Yes.
then we can take it from there. That's
Yes.
okay.
Nedbank will create a platform to say, here's a brand that everyone will come here. Now different companies, different brands will say, this is an opportunity for us to be, if we position ourselves in this, because there's this kind of people that comes here who are associated to our brand. Now, if we buy, for instance, a marquee and be part of that, it will help us to be able to get those critical stakeholders, because we will then invite them into our marquees so that there's discussions. The brand is bigger, it's Nedbank Golf Challenge, but we also have still some small brands in there that are trying to utilize or to exploit the bigger opportunity. So we also with the National Arts Festival, it will open up to companies to say, here's an opportunity. We're giving you so many people coming to this place. Who's interested to be able to tap into these people coming there? Then as an organization like as Transnet, we sit down and say, look, some of our customers, they go there. Some of our, let me say, stakeholders, they go there. Why don't we increase our presence? Because you want to be associated with certain brands or with certain platforms that are being created from stakeholder point of view and also from brand activation. So we will choose those platforms or those events that we think they will add value to the organization.
Yeah, you see, when you talk about a private, well, I say a private company, maybe even if it's not a private company, if it's a company that maybe needs to have customers, needs to have clients to make business, to make profits, or to sell something, for me, that branding idea fits in very nicely. I can understand it. So when it comes to Transnet, I'm saying to myself, so what is the actual tangible benefit for the money they would be spending on those kinds of events?
I agree, Chairperson, to say Transnet deals with business to business. You know, it's not business to consumer, which you will find that those that they deal with consumers, they will put more money. That's why during that time, Transnet was not, putting a lot of money in terms of branding. We will use those platforms, because if you look at the spending then, it was not as steep as those companies you're talking about that were paying. We were not, for instance, we were not doing above the line advertising. We were relying on below the line advertising, which is this.
What kind of amounts, for example? I know, Ms. Hoffman, I'm taking you off,
No, not
but
at all, Chair.
I want to understand this.
Chairperson, I might not be a guru on advertising, but I know that if we were to calculate, for instance, the amount that you put for billboards and TV, it's way above 100,000 on a campaign. So we're not doing those. And when I joined Transnet, I found that they were not doing those kind of campaigns. They were doing what you call PR. This small, where you see an event and you partner with them and then try to get value out of that, instead of going on TV and on billboards because it's expensive?
Well, you see, if we were to do advertising for the commission, advertising, I'm putting it in quotes, the purpose would be to make sure that we attract people who can come to the commission and give a lot of important information for purposes of our investigation. With Transnet, that exposure that it was seeking was going to help it get what?
Chairperson, it's multifold. It's multifold. Remember, Transnet is as big as it is. It has still it has a responsibility to recruit the right people. Now, the right minds, the right talent, they want to go to organizations that they think are top. Transnet also deals with communities where we need to support communities in terms of our citizenship responsibility. Now you've got a responsibility also to build the brand that is known, so that the people that you're also serving, it's not only serving customers. It has a responsibility within the communities. Now our responsibility is to build that brand to be seen as a brand either that is vibrant, a brand that is current, a brand that is topical. It's part of communications role also to do that. While I do understand that we might not be like companies that deals with customers direct, business to consumers directly, our approach will be different.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, we will actually, in the course of Mr. Mkwanazi's evidence, we will look at the actual budgets of marketing, etc. But
Yes.
I just put a pin in that for the moment. When
No,
he
that's fine.
returns, we'll be
That's
looking
fine.
at that. If we can then go to the first delegation of authority relevant for the time, and that you'll find at page 113 of Exhibit MM4, Mr. Patlani.
What page again?
113, Chair.
113.
And we were talking about the sponsorship provisions in the delegation of authority. You'll just note at the bottom of page 113, what is the effective date of this Transnet Group Limits of Authority document? If you'll just put on the, and Mr. Patlani, feel free to leave it on. It doesn't affect our microphones if you just keep yours on. So just for the record again, what is the effective date of this delegation of authority document?
Is the 1st of June 2011.
And then I'd like to take you to the provision governing sponsorships. That you'll find at page 138, 138. You'll see the top table on that page appears against the number 5.8.5, and that is headed sponsorships and donations. Do you see that?
Yes, Chairperson.
What I'm interested in is what was the delegation of authority to the GCE, the Group Chief Executive, at the stage of the 2011 delegation of authority?
It was up to not exceeding 30 million.
Thank you. We're going to return to that, and where it's relevant, I'll remind you of these delegations. But we've got in 2011, at least from the 1st of June 2011, we've got the Group Chief Executive having authority over sponsorships and donations up to but not exceeding 30 million, right? I'm going to take you to the 2012 delegation of authority next, so that we can see how that position changed under the 2012 delegation, and you'll find that commencing at page 141, 141. When was this delegation of authority framework effective from?
It says it effective from 1st May 2012.
So how do we understand the two in relation to each other? When did the previous delegation of authority cease to operate?
It says it, or it means it will have ceased on the 30th of April, 2012.
Thank you. So from the 1st of May 2012, this is what operates, and I'll take you to the sponsorship provision. You'll find that at page 167. And again there, Mr. Patlani, if you go to number 5.8.5, you'll see a heading sponsorships and donations. What does it now provide in relation to the group chief executive's extent of authority?
It says he can sign sponsorship and donation up to, but not exceeding 10 million, right?
And if it's above 10 million, who
I'm
decides
sorry,
on that?
I think I'm looking at a wrong.
Apologies.
I'm looking at 5.8.1.
Apologies, 5.8.5, Chair,
Oh,
just further
okay.
down on the page. You'll see a heading sponsorship and donations there. Do you have that?
Okay, okay.
Against 5.8.5,
Yes,
and then
yes,
if you
I've got
track
it.
it across, so excellent.
Yes, okay.
So,
Up
Mr.
to 10 million.
Up to 10 million, indeed.
Okay.
And I was asking Mr. Patlani, if it exceeded 10 million, who then would have authority?
It will be what we call today the RAMSEC. It's a board committee.
And at that time?
If it exceeds 20 million, it will be the board itself that needs to ratify.
So it would go up to 10 million to the group chief executive. Correct me if my understanding is accurate. Between 10 million and 20 million, it would be the Social and Ethics Committee. Is that correct?
It's correct, Chairperson.
And above 20 million, it would have to go to the board.
It's correct, Chairperson.
Thank you. We have included the 2013 delegation of authority in the bundle as well, but it's not necessary to go there because that position that obtained in 2012 carries through into 2013. Mr. Patlani, what I'm interested in is, as we've looked at these documents, until the 30th of April 2012, the group chief executive had authority up to 30 million. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct, Chairperson.
Oh, the other point we should just make, interestingly, if you go under the table at page 5.8.5, can you tell me, read into the record what is written at the bottom of that table? Oh, you were at page 167. So at page 167, you'll see the heading against 5.8.5 sponsorships and donations. There's a table, and then there is some language and words beneath the table. Can you please read what that says into the record?
Approval limits are cumulative per annum, e.g., the OD operating division, CE, can approve a total amount of 5 million per annum for sponsorships and donations.
So what does that mean? Is it over the course of a year they can only approve up to 5 million?
Well, my understanding, I'm not an expert on this. Yes, my understanding is that per a transaction, it must be this amount, and the whole amount for a particular year must not exceed the 5 million.
Right.
So he can sign one for 1 million, one for 2 million, 3 for but the total must be not above the 5 million that is here.
Right, or the 10 million if we're dealing with the group chief
yes.
executive, is that right?
Yes, Chairperson.
Well, I don't think that what you read means that, because if it meant that, there would be no need for the inclusion of the word cumulative in that sentence. I want you to think about that and tell me whether you think it means the way you read it would still hold.
That's why, Chairperson, I'm saying, because I was not necessarily responsible for this document, I might not be very accustomed.
I accept it.
Yes.
No, I accept that. I'm just testing your understanding of it. I accept that you didn't write it. It seems to me that what it means is that in a year, if your delegation of authority is 5 million, the sponsorships that you approve over a year should not exceed, in this case, mentioned after the column 5 million, 5 million. So you might approve 2 million in January, another 2 million in June, but you mustn't then in November approve 4 million.
I think we're in an agreement, Chairperson. Maybe I did not clarify myself very well. That's what I was saying.
Oh, is that what you were saying?
That's what my understanding was. To
Oh,
say
okay.
The 5
No,
million
that-
will be the cap.
Then I misunderstood you. I thought you were saying per transaction.
No, I was saying you'll have 10 transactions.
Oh,
But all
10
of them, when you put them
transactions.
together, they must give you this number.
Okay. No.
Or less.
I think when you said 10 transactions, I thought you say per transaction. Okay, all right.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Patlani. So I was just summarizing the position then, and correct me if my understanding is deficient in any respect. The 2011 delegation of authority operated until the 30th of April 2012. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, Chairperson.
And sponsorships at that time gave a delegation of authority to the group chief executive up to but not exceeding 30 million, and that was cumulative over the course of a year. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes, Chairperson.
And then from 2012, from the 1st of May 2012, that changed because the group chief executive could only approve up to but not exceeding 10 million in the given year. Is that correct?
It's correct, Chairperson.
And if it went above that, there were two successive entities it would go to. First, it would be the Social and Ethics Committee up to 20 million, and after that, any amount above 20 million would go to the board. Is that right?
It's correct. The DOA says that.
Thank you. That's going to be important backdrop to when we go through the contracts as they develop over time. And that's what I'd like to take you to, if I may. If we then go back to your statement, Mr. Patlani, you can pick it up at page 1 of Exhibit MM4. Right. There at the numbered paragraph 2, you talk about the initial stage of the New Age breakfasts. Can you tell us how the New Age breakfasts came to your attention at all at Transnet originally?
In 2011, I think I just joined when this issue of TNA breakfast coming. Before I had done these small sponsorships and donations, which were 100,000, 50,000, and they get approved. So the issue of DA was not much of an issue because the GM had DOAS who was informed. Then there was a gentleman, Jack. I think Mr. Joseph spoke about him, but I've forgotten his surname. Jack.
Would it be Roux, Jacques Roux?
Yes, Jack
Yeah.
Leroux or Roux, yes.
Yeah.
He came around our offices to see our GM. He's been coming for a number of days where we did not know what was the discussions about, but he was frequenting, let's say, our offices. Then later it appeared that it was issued around a newspaper. I'm not sure whether it has started, but I remember it was around the New Age being had started.
Your GM at the time was Skonyela.
Yes, it was Mr.
Skonyela.
Yes.
Okay.
Around September, I think around September, the first request, actually, the first one was not even, it was a proposal from TNA that says we need to sponsor a breakfast, a TNA breakfast.
Mr. Patlani, if I could take you to it just while you're explaining in your evidence. You'll find it at page 15 of MM4.
These breakfasts, they started as just ad hoc, one or two breakfasts. It's like you're supporting any other breakfast that would be there. But this one was a TNA where we were billed 735,000 for that session.
Was that a single business breakfast that they were making a proposal for?
They were making a proposal for two.
Right. Each in the amount of 735,700 rand. Is that correct?
Yes, Chairperson.
Can we just look at this page for a moment? What is the heading of, well, first of all, who addresses this letter and to whom is it addressed?
It's Jack Roux requesting Mr. Mboniso Skonyela.
And what is the heading of the proposal?
It's a proposal for sponsorship opportunity in the New Age Business Briefing.
And if you'll just read what is said in the proposal after Dear Mr. Sikonyela.
It says, we thank you for the ongoing commitment to this engagement and take pleasure in confirming our offer for an exciting sponsorship opportunity to our extremely popular business briefing for December and January as appended below.
Thank you. And then what appears below?
Below, it's a proposal of how much it will worth if you participate in this.
And then if you go over the page to page 16, what then happened after Transnet received that proposal from TNA?
What happens is we started now. I was instructed that I need to put together a memorandum suggesting that we need to participate here in this breakfast.
I'd then like to look at some of what is stated in this memorandum.
I think, Ms. Hoffmeyer.
Yes.
Maybe let's read the proposal into the record.
Indeed.
Because I think it's important. That
Of
was
course.
the first document or
Indeed.
proposal. Yes.
Chair, we've had Mr. Patlani read that first paragraph
Yes.
under the introduction.
Yes.
Should I summarize what is then contained in the
you
table?
can summarize.
Indeed.
You can summarize. I
So-
just want the person who is reading the
course.
transcript
Indeed.
to get the main features without going to the actual
document.
page.
Indeed, Chair. So below what Mr. Patlani read into the record is a table headed the New Age Business Briefing. It has a proposal date of the 12th of September 2011, and it indicates that the period is December and January. And there's, in small type, a proposal overview, high-profile business breakfast with suitably profiled guest speaker to promote readership of the New Age amongst business elite and create an excellent co-branding opportunity. And then there are certain columns which detail items such as the venue, which is identified as a ballroom at the Sandton Convention Center. It estimates the number of guests, which is 500. The suggested speaker under the column of December is Minister Malusi Gigaba. And under the column for January, there's a TBA, which I take to mean to be announced. And then you get venue hire costs set out, advertising coverage. It says 10 times 30 by 6 adverts. There's something under advertising cost of 538,200 rand, catering costs of 147,500 rand, and then a total of the 735,700 rand. And then it goes on to read, the TNA media is committed to ensuring the highest possible profile of speakers will be secured for these exclusive events, And similarly, the guest lists will be carefully constructed to ensure the optimal target audience for both our organizations. We thank you once again for the opportunity of submitting this proposal and look forward to being of service at all times. And then it's signed off by Jacques Roux.
Thank you.
Indeed. So,
Yes.
so Mr. Patlani, that is dated 12 September 2011. And then we move over to page 16.
Maybe, Ms. Hofmeyer, I note that in the heading, this proposal says the new age business briefing, and not breakfast.
Indeed.
So there may or may not be significance in that. So you.
What was your understanding? Was there a difference between the business briefing and the business briefing breakfasts or the business breakfasts, or are those all the same thing?
Chairperson, they changed the names. I remember sometimes it will write it will be briefing, but it was the same event.
But they sometimes said breakfast without briefing. Sometimes they said briefing without breakfast. Sometimes they said briefing breakfast.
No, I think from Transnet, when we were writing, we'll refer to them as breakfast instead of briefing.
But do you recall what TNA called them most of the time?
No, it was the same. It was briefing.
Briefing all the time?
All the time, as far as I remember, Chairperson.
There was no reference to breakfast?
Well,
I can't remember. I don't want to.
I may be confusing.
no, not at all.
things, yeah.
But if I may just be of assistance, because it's of course asking Mr. Patlani to go back in
Yes.
some time. If we go, for example, to page 30, which was a later proposal.
3-0.
3-0, Chair.
Yes.
You'll see there the heading of that proposal is
Yeah.
the New Age Business Breakfast sponsorship.
Yes, yes.
So it does
yes.
seem, certainly as we've seen these
Yes.
proposals,
Yes, okay. No, that's
the
fine.
terms are moved interchangeably.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Patlani, if we can then return to page 16, because this is the memorandum that you indicated in your evidence a moment ago, you were then required or asked to prepare. Who asked you to prepare it?
Mr. Mboniso Skonyela instructed that I prepare a memo for participation in these sessions.
And what due diligence did you do before preparing it? Because you explained to us earlier the usual process was you receive an input from a proposed sponsorship, and then you do a due diligence to assess whether it makes sense for Transnet to engage with this proposed sponsor. What due diligence did you do?
Let me say, Chairperson, when it started, because these were new activities that one did not get into before, the magnitude of the amounts and all that. What one will do is you will go to the GM, he will give you ideas as to what you need to plug in. And then what you...
In the memorandum or what?
In the memorandum,
Yeah.
to say, look at this, because
Yeah.
this if you read it, it also talks about branding, and which branding was not my forte. You know, it was other colleagues' responsibility. So it will talk about media, which was not also my forte. So you now and then will need guidance from also colleagues within the department, because this was an all-encompassing. It was not just an only stakeholder activity position was not a platform for stakeholder engagement only. It had other elements. So you move around getting colleagues to assist. But the process that we will do, which came later, initially here, it will be just take the sponsorship, interpret it, look at what Transnet can benefit from there, because sometimes they will write to say, what is it that we will get in there, and put those elements to say, this is what we are going to get from there, and go to the managers to advise in terms of the amount, because this, like I said, it was big, where I had not done this before. Whatever that we had were small amounts, so then the GM will advise us to whether it's correct, or you will take it back and correct, to check whether the processes, which is just to check if the company is there, if there's a proposal and all that. That you will do, and then it goes to him for ratification.
Okay.
So, Mr. Patlani, if we go to paragraph 2 on page 16, you record there that the New Age publication is one of the key publications that Transnet targets for positioning of its brand and to improve its image. Where does that come from?
Well, this is what we were instructed to write about, because you will question to say, but I look at this from sponsorship point of view, where it's not to me, I'm not looking at media side. The media side, there's somebody. Now, if it's a sponsorship that we talk about, the publication, how do we deal with that? That we are told to add this, because as you write, you take it to him, it changes. You will
That
change.
is now your general,
Yes.
Mr. Skonyela.
Mr. Skonyela, yes.
Well,
So it will come to him to say he's not happy with what you've written.
Well, maybe before you, Ms. Hofmeyer follows up, when you got this proposal, when you saw this proposal for the first time, was it when it was sent to you or given to you by Mr. Skonyela?
Yes, Chairperson. He will call you into his office.
Yes.
Yes, and then
Yes.
talk about, show you this, but start talking about it. This is a new
Yes.
publication.
Oh, okay.
All
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Hofmeyer.
Thank you, Chair. So is your evidence that you were guided by him in including the content of paragraph 2 there?
Yes, Chairperson.
And then it goes on to talk about the 2 breakfasts. It seems
Maybe let's just make sure it's clear. So are you saying, Mr. Patlani, as far as paragraph 2 is concerned, you can't vouch for what is said there? It was not coming from you to say the New Age is one of the key publications that Transnet targets for positioning of its brand and to improve its image.
Chairperson, during our era, you will write it the way you write other small sponsorship proposals. But this one, you will be guided, you will write. Then there will be correction. It's as if you have not done anything. And it will go to an extent where sometimes it becomes personal, where you'll find your memo, you'll have to pick it up down there. It looks like either you're not following what I'm saying or you do not.
Yeah.
So that was the era in which we were in. So,
Yes.
so you'll then end up taking whatever, there's correction as they are, you put them, you
Yeah.
take it back.
Yes.
It gets taken to the next level.
Can I take that answer to be
A
to
yes.
the effect that it's a yes?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, you were writing what you were told to write,
Yes.
as far as at least paragraph 2.
What has been reviewed, Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will not necessarily be said directly to, he will write there the way he wants it
Yes.
on the
yes,
memo.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Thank you. And then over the page, at page 17, there's an indication of the financial implications. What was going to be the total cost of this initiative if it was supported as a sponsorship?
It was going to worth 1.471 million. It's 1,471,000.
Yes. And then what happened with that? Was it approved?
Well, during this time, it was not approved. Mr. Mapoma, by then, he was acting. He was a legal service group executive, if I'm not. But he was
Was in the legal department.
in the legal department at a higher position. So he was acting on behalf of Ms. Zola. So forgotten the surname, but Ms. Zola were reporting to, but this was reporting to him directly.
Oh, I think it's the one I saw
Yes,
earlier.
indeed.
Okay.
Yes. So it was not approved. Mr. Mapoma did not agree with this sponsorship.
Oh, that's why he did not sign.
Yes, he did indicate that he will not sign.
Did he, Ms. Hoffman? I was going to ask a question and I remembered that I must leave it to you. Maybe
No.
you were still going to ask
Not
it.
at all. Chair, please, and I'll follow up afterwards if it's necessary.
Did he indicate why he was not prepared to approve this sponsorship?
Well, because I'm not the one who will definitely will take it to him. Normally, it's the process. It will
Yes.
once I've done my job, it will be in
Yeah.
the office of the GM,
Yes.
and then the assistant in the
Yeah.
GM will take it there. But when it comes back, definitely I will know it's
Yeah.
not signed because we need to take
Yes.
to the next level of having a
Yes.
contract and all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you don't know what reasons he might have articulated.
Well, by that I was still
In
new.
this
I
case.
did not even have a closer relationship to say even I could ask on the side. I can't remember what was his
Yeah.
discussion with Mr.
Yeah, no, what I'm thinking is you escalate this to the next person and you signed and then your general manager, Mr. Skonyela, signed. I thought maybe when it comes back and you are told it was not approved, maybe you might have been told why Mr. Mapoma did not sign.
No, what I was told was just leave it.
Oh,
Yeah, it was like we are parking it for now because
Okay.
we parked it on the side, but we started the process again.
okay, all right.
Well, if we go over to page 18, we will get the next memorandum related to the proposed sponsorship of the New Age business briefing sessions. It seems that we're back to the language of business briefing there.
Maybe, I'm sorry, Ms. Hoffman. Maybe you can assist me here, Mr. Patlani. As the proposal, as you signed the proposal, this one that we are talking about, were you in support of Transnet sponsoring these briefings or breakfasts?
Initially, Chair,
This particular one?
initially, Chair, when they come, remember they are new.
Yeah.
We've been hearing about New Age there, New Age what. There are breakfasts that. Now, when it comes, remember that you don't have the content. So there has to be discussions between myself and also the other managers. There was also a level of other managers. You need to find out now how to go about. And if we are told the history of Transnet to say we've never been on TV, whatever, we don't go above the line. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for Transnet to be on TV. And you buy into that narrative. You see, it says at this amount. Now the brand is going to get this exposure. More so, I'm looking at it from the stakeholder point of view to say, I'll be able to have an opportunity to invite critical stakeholders to be part of that, to go and either drive the thought leadership or listen to thought leadership. You know, so when it started, I support it. I support it. I don't want to tell a lie. Yes.
And what you thought was the value for Transnet was the exposure on TV.
Yes, the mileage of the brand.
Yes,
Yes, I also looked at that, and
Yes.
also this platform that is being created for us to be able to invite our stakeholders, and we'll choose which one for the benefits that we're getting of the two tables, and also the opportunity that we will be able to talk, drive leadership, invite key Transnet leadership to leaders or managers to go and speak there. So it looked closely and it looked well from my side.
Okay, and the amount seemed justifiable?
Well, because it had certain elements that were not necessarily areas that I was familiar with, like advertising, which was brought in there. I looked at it as additional benefits, you know. So if they've charged this way, because with eventing I know roughly, okay, I do events, okay, they will be this. But now when they added this, the exposure on the newspaper and whatever, which is media related, I thought it was fair then.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm indebted. I actually do have a follow-up question, if I may, arising from yours. If we go back to page 15, because remember that's the first proposal that Mr. Roux sends through, I'm just interested in how they break down the costs that they're going to be charging Transnet of 735,700 Rand per briefing breakfast. Did you interrogate that at all? Did you, for example, query why Transnet would be paying for catering at the business breakfast and whether that would derive value for Transnet?
No, I don't think one interrogated it that way. There are certain things that you took it that they are part of eventing. You know, now this is a proposal, it's a package that either you as Transnet you decide and say no, we don't think it's fair, or we don't do it, or whatever. So I looked at it from that angle to say this is a package, but also with the discussions that we are having with other managers and other colleagues that says, you know, we haven't been on above the line, and it's an opportunity. So you get swayed in a way to say, this looks like it's a fair price.
Had Transnet ever paid for catering before at breakfasts it had attended or sponsored?
Yes. Yes, we did.
And, right, if we can then go to the next memorandum, which is page 18, and that is a memorandum dated the 20th of March, 2012. Do you see that? We're at page 18, 18.
Yes, Chairperson.
Were you involved in the preparation of this memorandum?
Yes, I was involved, Chairperson.
And can you read for us what the subject of the memorandum was?
It says sponsorship proposal for the New Age business briefing sessions.
Now, what was this proposal for? How many business breakfasts and at what value?
They wanted now a contract now so that we don't do ad hoc, because we had started with ad hoc, 2 ad hoc sessions. Now they've brought a proposal that says they want a contract of 16 sessions worth 16 million. Now they've increased from 735, it went to $1 million per session.
And the ones that you had already done before they talked about a contract now, the ad hoc ones that you had done, I think you said 2, is that right?
Yes, Chairperson.
What are you able to tell me that was tangible that Transnet gained for paying the kinds of amounts that it paid?
Chairperson, with branding, it's different.
There's no tangible thing.
I just want to explain, sorry, Chairperson. I want to explain that
yes.
it's different. One, like I've explained earlier, that you try to build the top of mind, your brand to be top of mind. You also want for the public to see that you are part of driving thought leadership. You don't necessarily have to have a Transnet speaker speaking there. When you're driving thought leadership, you're saying the public or the community must know the topical issues, and you are going to bring that to their attention. And now, with this partnership with SABC, I think that's, to me, that's what swayed me, because you're getting airtime that is not worth for this money. You're getting 2 hours of play, or with Transnet banners behind, being seen beyond South Africa into other African countries.
And so what, Mr. Patlane? They see the banners, they see the names, Transnet, the logo, and so what? It's not a private business, even if it's public. You're not trying to get the public to buy anything. That's what I'm struggling to understand.
Chairperson,
when you spend so much.
Chairperson,
and maybe you are not responsible because you are not at the level of making decisions. But I'm asking you these questions just as I was asking the earlier witness, because I'm trying to understand. Because I want to try and understand and put myself in the position of people who said these kinds of amounts must be spent. Taxpayers' money must be spent on these kinds of things. If you explain, maybe I'll understand. So don't get frustrated. Maybe it's just because I'm trying to understand. I mean, Transnet is a parastatal, is an SOE.
Yes, Chairperson.
It is there for various reasons. If you ask a lot of people in the kinds of places where I grew up, they will think when you say Transnet, they'll think about trains. They'll think about trains, you know. They might not know a lot of other things. So maybe part of my difficulty is that I'm also, maybe I haven't moved too far from that. So when I think about Transnet, I'm thinking, okay, now what's important is that Transnet must service people properly. You know, people must get trains that run properly. But of course, Transnet does much more than that. But that's where I'm coming from. Do you want to give it a try again to make me understand?
Chairperson, I think
I'm certainly not, my mind is not closed. I'm just trying to understand. Maybe I should do some course in branding 101.
Chairperson, I think while you are explaining, you even are assisting me maybe to be able to explain some. It's not conclusive. There could be more.
Yes.
Let me give one example from the branding exercise point of view. There's a confusion outside where people still regard Transnet as Spoornet. That exercise is not necessarily going to happen on its own for people to forget or remember all this. There's confusion also of people thinking Transnet is Prasa. So anything that happens at a station, they will send complaints, whatever, to us. So as communication, you also have that responsibility. While you've got a responsibility to customers, but you also have a responsibility to communities to educate and to inform them, so that when they see, for instance, what you do to communities through Pello Pepper, for instance, it's Transnet Pello Pepper, they're able to associate the brand with good work.
Yeah.
So the thinking that we had, especially from me, when I talk about the exposure on TV, it's close associated to that, to say you putting this brand, this brand awareness just to be on the top of people's minds, so that they know this company that transport goods that transport goods, which we thought is Spoornet, is Transnet, but also they're not only dealing with hardcore ferrying of goods, but they also are encouraging dialogue in the country. They are supporting good communityship with it. So as communication, it's just unfortunate that part of us is to sell that simple, that light kind of information to communities.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Patlani, I'm going to come back to the value that you were able to get out of the business breakfast, because your affidavit indicates that towards the end of the period of these business breakfasts, your approach changed when the management changed within your area, and much more value, as I understand your affidavit, was able to be taken from these events. But I'm just flagging for you, I haven't left this topic because I will want to return to it when we can contrast what Transnet was getting at this time and what it got ultimately. Because I think it'll be a useful illustration in due course to conclude this aspect. But if we could just return to the memo at page 18, that is a memorandum you indicated that you were involved in preparing. And you indicated that it related to sponsorships, and you were confirming for us that it was 16 sessions that would cost now R1 million per session, and so the total was 16 million rand. If you go to page 20, could you tell us who ultimately approved that this contract be entered into?
It was approved by the Group Chief Executive, then Mr. Brian Molefe.
And what was the date on which he approved it?
23rd of March 2012.
Now, if we just go back to your evidence earlier, that is when the 2011 delegation of authority was still operative. Is that correct?
Yes, I think.
Because that was until the end of April 2012. Is that right?
Yes.
And if I recall, that delegation of authority, we don't need to go to it now, but it gave the group chief executive authority over sponsorships up to 30 million within a year, cumulatively. Is that correct?
It's correct, Chairperson.
So did it raise any flags for you that Mr. Molefe was approving this sponsorship at 16 million within the course of that year?
No, like I said, my responsibility was just to put this together, and then I give it to managers. Then they look at it, whether it has to go to the next person for approval.
But give us a sense, if you may, what did 16 million look like relative to the rest of the budget that your division had? Do you have a sense of that?
Well, I can't remember how much the budget was, but this was a big chunk. Like I said, we were doing smaller sponsorship then when I had recently joined, but we were doing 100 or what. So when TNH came, it was this big kind of a budget that amount that we had to pay or to sponsor a course.
If you then go over to page 21, you'll see the agreement, which I understand from your affidavit was then subsequently concluded. Is that correct?
Page 16.
Apologies. If you start at 21, that's
21,
the first
okay.
page of an agreement.
Yes.
And if you go to page 27, it was signed on the 7th and the 14th of May. Is that correct?
Yes. That's correct, Chairperson.
Am I correct that your evidence previously was, in terms of process, the memorandum would be prepared, it would then go through the various levels up to your superior, Mr. Sekonyela, and then ultimately for approval by the group chief executive. Is that right?
You're correct, Chairperson.
And then thereafter a contract would be put together and signed. Is that correct?
It's correct, Chairperson.
Let's just look at page 21. What is the title of this agreement?
It's a sponsorship agreement.
Thank you. And then I'd like to...
Hang on 1 second. Can we go back to page 27?
Of course.
I see that the person who signed for Transnet was acting group chief executive. Do you know who was that?
Yes,
at that time?
I found out, Chairperson, it's Ms. Nonkululeko Sishi.
Nonkululeko Sishi?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you. And it was at a time, it seems, when Mr. Brian Molefe was already chief executive, so he must have been away or something.
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes, as I understand it, the approval was given, that's page 20, back in March of 2012. Is that right?
Yes, Chairperson.
And then the version of the contract that's ultimately signed occurs in May 2012, not on this occasion signed by Mr. Molefe, but by Ms. Sishi. Is that right?
It's correct, Chairperson.
Okay. But did it depend on Mr. Molefe's prior approval?
For us to have a contract going out to the other party, there must be already an approval, because you need to have the memorandum done, and then you are able to write a letter that informs the other party to say, we are approving your proposal, and an agreement will follow. Then we will send the agreement to the party first to sign, and it will come to us for signing also, and then for archiving.
Thank you, Mr. Patlani. There's one aspect of this agreement I'd like to draw your attention to, because it is a theme that we are seeing emerge in the course of the evidence before this commission in relation to these TNA contracts. And you'll find the relevant clause at page 25 within this agreement. Do you see there that there's a clause on this page that's been struck out?
Yes, Chairperson, I see it.
What was that clause before it was deleted?
It was a clause on early termination.
And what did it provide?
It provided that Transnet reserved the right to terminate this agreement upon giving 30 days notice to TNA Media. Further, that Transnet shall be entitled to terminate this agreement in writing for failure of TNA to perform its responsibilities.
Do you know why that was deleted?
I don't know. I prepared this, and it will go. It went with the memo, so that you don't have the GC signing the memo, and then later you take again the contract for signing. We prepared together, but the next time I saw it signed, it was when it was on my desk signed, and with all this cancellation, and all what I did was to archive it.
Tell us about ordinarily in these types of contracts. Would there ordinarily be an early termination clause included?
This is a standard. It's a Transnet standard contract which are found there, and it's important that it has a termination clause because it protects Transnet in case you know performance is not up to standard. So this one. I made sure that it has, you know, it's a standard contract. It has all the elements, but when it was signed, because normally it will come back to me for me to send it out first to the parties so that they sign and then I will take it to the office of the GCs. But then I realized that it was signed at a particular time and with this termination clause cancelled out.
Yes, the signature or initialing next to the to clause 4.1 or 41 and 11, or is it 11? One of those signatures appears to my eye to be that of the acting group chief executive. Is that right?
No, it's that of Ms. Sishi, who was acting.
Yes, I'm saying acting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, so it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And
the other one?
The other one is that of Mr. Howe from from TNA.
Oh, okay. There seems to be, there are no witnesses who witnessed the signing of this agreement, it seems. Am I right?
It's true, Chairperson. It's true. I don't see witnesses when it came like this, because you'll see as we go on how my agreements will look like. There was standard. There was a template where you have the main parties, you have the two witnesses. So I don't know how it changed, but yeah.
But when you prepared it and sent it upstairs, as it were, for signature, it had witnesses?
Yes, Chairperson.
Or you are not sure?
Yes, because I don't even see page 12, where I will write who are the parties, because I normally also write the names of the parties to say from the TNA who's the COO, who's accountable from the side of.
Oh, well, there may be page 12 missing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but the space for witnesses would not be on page 12.
Yeah.
It would be on the last page, which is 13. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't.
Because the witnesses don't come before the signatories.
I hear you, Chairperson. I don't also see where the witness is signed.
But are you sure that the one you sent to them did have provision for witnesses on the last page, or you are not sure about that?
Chairperson, let me say I'm not sure, but remember there's a template that Transnet had. It's not like a template that I created.
Yes, it was there.
Yes, so for me, I do not think that Transnet will have really, no, I'm not sure, Chairperson, but...
Yeah, but
yes.
Since the time that you have been at Transnet, have you ever had a sponsorship agreement signed that didn't have witnesses, basis for witnesses? Is it something that does happen?
No, that's why I'm saying as we move forward, I have those templates that
Yeah.
I remember that this is
Okay,
how
all right.
the template
Thank you.
that we use
Thank you,
will
Chair.
look like.
You'll try and get page 12
Indeed.
somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
There was a page 12 we picked up in a later agreement missing.
Oh, okay,
But
so-
we seem to have missed that this one was omitted.
Oh,
So I've
okay.
just asked our
Yes.
investigator to assist us there.
Okay.
If I can then take you, Mr. Patlani, to page 30. And I'd just like to orientate ourselves in time, because this is where the delegation of authority becomes quite important. You'll recall that when Mr. Molefe approved the last 16 million sponsorship agreement, that was in March of 2012, and that was a month or so before we moved to the new delegation of authority provisions. Is that correct, Mr. Patlani?
It's correct, Chairperson.
Now at page 30, we have a document. What is this document?
It's another proposal from the TNA.
Right.
UHS.
And what is its date?
7 March 2013.
So now we are in the time where the second delegation of authority, the 2012 delegation of authority, applies. Is that right?
It's correct, Chairperson.
And please remind us, what was the group chief executive's limit under the 2012 delegation of authority for
It's,
sponsorships?
10 million.
10 million.
Yes.
And what had it been previously?
30 million.
Thank you. So this, you said, was a proposal dated the 7th of March 2013 from TNA. And please just read for us what the heading was.
On page 31.
30,
Chairperson.
on 30,
Oh.
their proposal.
The,
yes.
the new age business breakfast sponsorship.
Thank you. And if you go to the last paragraph there, will you read that last paragraph into the record, please?
I'm sorry, Ms. Hoffman.
Yes.
I'm trying to catch up with
Oh,
you as well.
I do apologize.
What was the
We
page?
are at page 30.
30. Okay, thank you.
And that, we've been told, was a proposal letter received from TNA,
Okay,
dated the 7th of March 2013. So we're now in the delegation period where the limit of the chief executive sponsorship authority is 10 million. It's dropped from the previous 30 million. And Mr. Patlani was indicating this was received from TNA. It was a proposal for the New Age Business Breakfast sponsorships. And Mr. Patlani, I asked if you would read the last paragraph into the record.
We thank Transnet SOC Ltd for supporting these business briefings over the past 2 years, and we look forward to an ongoing mutually beneficial relationship. It is with pleasure that we submit the following proposal for the period 1st April 2013 to 31st March 2014 for sponsorship of 20 business briefings for a total investment of 20 million, excluding VAT and agency commission. The proposal provides a summary of key benefits to the sponsor and illustrates the strong return on investment. Kind regards.
Thank you. And then if we go over the page is another memorandum. It's the next one in the sequence of the big contracts for which a memorandum was prepared. Did you prepare this memorandum?
The one on page 31?
Yes.
Yes, I assisted, yes, on this one.
Now, can you just help us with the subject? Well, first of all, the date of it. What is the date of this memorandum?
The date is 11 March 2013.
And to whom is it addressed?
It's addressed to Mr. Molefe, Mr. Brian Molefe, Group Chief Executive.
And please read the subject for us.
Request to renew the SABC New Age Business Briefing Partnership.
Now, what I'm interested in there, Mr. Patlani, is in all the previous memoranda, this transaction, this type of contracting with TNA has been described as a sponsorship. But now it's being described as a partnership. Why did that language change?
Well, I had a discussion with the GM because I'm responsible for sponsorship management, and now why should we use this? I said no, use partnership, and now there was no clarity as to why, and you see, you will ask, you don't get the answer, either you are dismissed, and then you need to go and write. So when I went, I wrote as a sponsorship because I did not know any partnership or a document that guides on partnership. So I went on default on making this a sponsorship like the proposal was saying.
And then why did it change to partnership then?
No, I was told to say, I told you, don't use BRA, don't use sponsorship, use partnership. And I had to change it to suit what my manager.
And what governs partnerships in Transnet?
To me, I don't know any document. I've not, let me say it's not there. I've not seen a document that governs partnerships. So to me, sometimes I take it's a word that is used loosely to mean either sponsorship or whatever that any other person wants to justify. But I know sponsorship because we had a draft sponsorship document policy by then. And
what was the value of this contract?
The value was, they wanted 20 million. And then he said, no, we can't give them 20 million. They make it 15. And then you go and alter.
Who was he in that?
The GM, Mr. Skonyela.
And who approved the 15 million at page 32?
It was approved by Mr. Molefe.
Now, can I just be clear? What date did he approve it?
April 4, 2013.
In April 2013, did Mr. Molefe have the delegated authority to approve a sponsorship for 15 million?
Well, according to the DOASS we went through, he did not have that.
And what was the limit to his authority to conclude a partnership agreement for Transnet?
It was 10 million.
No, sorry, the limit on a partnership agreement. What limit, if any, applied to Mr. Molefe's authority to conclude partnerships for Transnet?
No, I only know about sponsorships. I don't know partnerships, which was 10 million by that time.
So
Yes.
what was 10 million by that time?
I'm talking about the limit on the DOA.
Yes, previous, but that dealt with sponsorships.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm asking, was there any limit on the authority of the group chief executive to conclude a partnership agreement?
He says he doesn't know
He
anything
doesn't know.
about partnerships.
Oh, thank you.
He
Sorry.
says he only knows about sponsorships.
Right.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you. Sorry, I thought we kept going back to 10 million
Yeah.
limit, so I was scared
Yeah.
that was going to...
Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay. Can I just ask you, do you have, did you ever get to know why, in regard to sponsorships, the group chief executives delegation of authority was reduced so substantially from 30 million to 10 million?
It's an exercise that company secretary will always do. I think sometimes if there's no somebody from the office of the GCE to go and support that, because they will normally reduce because of either moratorium or whatever, or either the revenues are getting low. So somebody from the office of the GCE, because it can be the GCE himself, should be able to go and just even say whether does it make sense or not. If not, if there's no presentation made, they conclude and take it to the board for ratification.
Okay, all right.
And then if we can move to the agreement itself, which was concluded, you'll find that at page 33. And just the description of this agreement in capitals at the beginning of that document. What is this agreement now called?
It's now called Branding and Advertising Partnership Agreement.
And what had the previous one been called? Do you recall?
Sponsorship agreement.
Thank you. There are two aspects of the terms of this agreement I'd just like to highlight and have your evidence on, Mr. Patlani. The first appears at page 37 in terms of Transnet's commitment under the agreement. So I would like, in the course of your evidence, to see how the obligations of Transnet became more onerous over time. You'll see at clause 7 on page 37. What does clause 7.2 provide?
It provides Transnet's commitment.
Right, and 7.2?
That parties agree that the cost of the event shall be kept at the sum of 12 million, excluding VAT.
And at 7.3?
Additional 3 million, excluding VAT, will be made available.
And carry on?
And utilized as and when required based on mutual agreement by both parties and as approved by Transnet Group Chief Executive or his designate.
And then at 7.4, we're told how payment is going to work under the agreement. What does it provide?
That payment, as in 7.2 above, will be made by Transnet 7 days after this agreement has been signed.
So just help me with that. What's happening, as I understand these agreements, is Transnet is contracting for a year of business breakfasts. Is that correct?
It's correct, Chairperson.
And in this case, it was contracting for 15 of them, and it would be paid in 2 tranches, 12 million initially and then 3 million dependent on a discretion, it seems, that the Group Chief Executive would exercise. Is that correct?
The contract says like that.
Yes.
Chairperson.
And how about payment? When was payment of this 12 million rand going to be made to TNA?
Well, let me just also clarify. I prepared the memo, but I see the contract, as you see, it says branding and advertising partnership. It's prepared by somebody else because it's moving away from sponsorship. As you see, it says branding and I'll answer on what it meant, my understanding on 7 days, because
Certainly.
later we paid them according to that. But
Yes.
this contract, it was prepared by somebody from our team. I can't recall who's
understand
that. Yes, because this is not the wording that I normally use. But I can talk to the 7 days. Later, we were advised by the GM, Mr. Skonyela, to say. Apparently, he had a meeting either with them. I don't know, but it was kind of like there was an engagement. I don't know whether it was telephonically or what.
And sorry, is them TNA?
With his colleagues from TNA,
Yes.
to say now they want us to pay within 7 days. I don't know, the rationale was either the issues of overheads or whatever, but it was, he was making us aware to say that's going to be the way forward. We have to pay them within that period.
Wouldn't that have a cash flow implication for Transnet? Maybe not, given the size of its budget. I realize probably not a cash flow issue. But was that usual, that you would pay for the full extent of a year's contract within 7 days of signing an agreement?
I know of small suppliers that there was a push to pay them faster, but I will not speak on authority on issue of finance, because I did not really deal with that. Even invoices, when they come, we will channel to him to sign off and for payment. So,
but before this change that Mr. Skonyela told you about, that they'll have to be paid within 7 days, what was the time frame within which Transnet used to pay the new age, or TNA?
Chairperson, the previous agreement was 30 days. 30 days after they've presented their invoice.
Yes, and those ones, would Transnet pay the whole amount within that 30 days, or only for that particular session? Would the payment be for a whole 6 months or a year, or only within 30 days in respect of the particular session?
The contract ones, when they present, let's say, 16 million invoice.
Yeah.
It will be paid at once.
So if it's at like 5 breakfast sessions or whatever, it will be for the whole amount.
For the whole
for
amount,
the whole
Chairperson.
contract.
Yes, Chairperson.
So if the last breakfast will be in 10 months' time, you have already paid long before that.
That's yes, Chairperson. That's
Yes.
the understanding. It was like
Okay,
that.
okay,
yes.
all right.
Then I'd like to move, if we may, to 2014. We're at page 46 now.
46.
46,
Yeah.
indeed, Chair. Chair, I'm mindful that we're very close to 1:45.
Yes, I guess we are not doing as well as
we're not.
we would like. But
Unfortunately.
it's important to clarify these
It is,
things.
certainly, Chair.
Otherwise, we unnecessarily bring people back. Maybe we can. Let's try. Maybe we'll see 5-2.
Certainly,
Yeah,
Chair. Thank you.
okay.
This is a memorandum.
And if we don't finish, then maybe, well, I don't know, we talked about dates earlier
Yes.
on, but if it suits all concerned, I could sit in the afternoon on Monday. I have a commitment at the court in the morning, but I could sit in the afternoon on Monday.
Chair, we will just have to check. Oh, no. We, unfortunately, Mr. Mbikiwe and I are
Not
in
available.
endless meetings with witnesses preparing for
For
the
the-
aviation
for the
session
other
the
2
following
weeks,
week.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a Monday afternoon, he's reminding me we don't actually have available at this point.
And
But
for the rest of the week, I guess.
the rest of the week is very full. That's a challenge.
It may be. I know that you said that the Tuesday, the 4th, is filled, but it may be
Yes.
that we could start with him
Indeed.
and finish.
No, that shouldn't
with
be a
him,
problem
yeah,
at all because
yeah.
it's short. We didn't
Yeah.
want to fit a whole new witness in
Yes,
on the
yeah,
4th.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
don't have a difficulty at all,
Yeah.
given what we know of
Yes,
that day's
yeah,
evidence,
yeah.
for us just to complete Mr.
Okay.
Patlani
No,
there.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
But we'll go a little bit further if we may. What I want to look at the memorandum at page 46, Mr. Patlani, is how the price of the business breakfasts are now increasing over time. So what is the date of this memorandum?
This one was written on the 24th January 2014.
And were you involved in in writing it?
Yes, I was involved, Chairperson.
Now, how many breakfasts was this for, and what was going to be the cost of each breakfast?
These breakfasts were 2, and then they charged us 3 million, which it moves from the million per session. Now they're charging us double. The question I asked my GM to say, but this is not fair because it's not long that we had a contract with them. Why would it have increased so much?
By 100%.
Yes, and I tried calling my partner on the side of TNA at my level. That was Vidat Talib. Why this, and the justification? No, it's a president. President will be speaking at SONA. For president now we charge ×2. I was like, but it's not fair. Now because we're not moving, we're at the same level. Now it had to be escalated to the CEO, Mr. Howe, to say I'm rude. I don't want to act. Then there was discussion with my GM. I don't know what happened, but ultimately I ended up having to write this and it got approved. But I did question this because
Yes.
actually from 7:35, it was as if every time you do a breakfast, it's going up by 300 or 400,000. Then you question to say, we're at 7:35 when you started. Why now $1 million? You don't win on
And
that.
it would
but
be during the same 12 months or something.
yes, even if it's after a year, it can't escalate that
yeah,
much.
it can't escalate like that.
You
Yeah.
see. But then it ends up here because I talk only to my peer on the other side,
Yes.
and But
Yeah.
if I'm instructed to say, go ahead, process, you've tried your bit to save the company, but you could do up to that level, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Patlani. Just to clarify in relation to your question, Chair, for the record, at page 37, that prior agreement, which was for the 15 sessions, was going to conclude on the 30th of March 2014. And at that stage, they were charging 1 million rand a session.
Okay.
But this proposal, which then gets approved, is still within that period, the
Yes.
24th of January, and it's gone up to 1.5 million.
Sure.
And Mr. Patlani, you said the explanation you were given was that the president was coming. Well, that was certainly for one of the breakfasts. Was any explanation given to you for why the other breakfasts should also be charged at 1.5 million?
No, they said they were charging SONA, State of Nation Address, at 2 million. So the other one will remain a million. So
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Technically, it's the same. Either it's 1.5, but that's the rationale I got, and I was questioning to say. But we have hosted the president before. You did not double it. Why it gets double? But yeah, they tell you it has to be like that. It's like that, and you know. So you try, and yeah. But if you then get an instruction that says no, process this as is, as per the proposal, you do so ultimately.
Chair, that may be a convenient place at which to end, given that we won't complete.
Yes,
and we'll
yes.
return on the 4th,
Yes.
if that's convenient to
Yeah,
all
no,
concerned.
that's fine. Okay, we'll adjourn the proceedings for the day, unless the public and the media are advised otherwise. Early next week, there will be no hearings next week. The next hearing will be on the 4th of February. There will be no hearing on the 3rd as well. We adjourn.
All rise.